Welcome to Week 14 Boom Bust Fantasy Football Show, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network and Sellout Crowd. I'm Corey, and I'm joined by my brother Kyle. We're going to break down some booms and busts at each position for your Week 14 fantasy football matchups. Now, what is a boom and what is a bust is whether they exceed or fall short of their projected point total for the week based off of Fantasy Pros full PPR projections. All right, Kyle, let's kick off Week 14.
Yes, sir. My boom QB of the week, Mr. Jordon Love. This is not a guy I ever thought I would have in the boom column this year, especially the way he kind of started the season. He was kind of rough. Last 4 weeks, he's been rock solid, better than probably half the field at QB, to be honest with you. I think he's like QB 9 right now on the season. Like, he's crushing it. He's had, in the last 4 games, he's had 250 yards, 2+ touchdowns. He's projected this week against the Giants 20 of 32 for 240 yards, 1.6 touchdowns. Now, put that in perspective. The Giants' defense is awful. They're 15th against QBs. They're only that low because people can run against them because they get such big leads because they're that bad. But then you think about what I said, 250+ yards and 2+ TDs. This is super low. I think he hits the 300-yard mark again. I think he gets at least 2 touchdowns, probably 3 again. 17.2 points is way too low. I think he gets back up in the 20s again this week. And he's playing on Monday night, so give me that.
Yeah, I mean, the only love this guy's been getting this season is pretty much the name plastered on the back of his jersey, right? That's pretty much it. Low expectations coming in. Actually, I'd say the first few games of the season, he was surprisingly good. But again, I think it's because those expectations were so low, right? But then he fell back off where people expected him to be, kind of disappeared off the fantasy radar for a bit. But guess what? He's back. Now, I know you mentioned that the Giants' run defense isn't that good, but honestly, Green Bay's run offense right now, also not very good. So they're having to lean on Love during this situation. And I mean, we've kind of seen the same thing in Houston where, when you're just throwing the ball, good things are going to happen. You're going to rack up fantasy points.
Yep.
So it doesn't necessarily always turn into real life wins, but it turns into fantasy points, which is wins for us. And that's really all that matters.
It's turned into a couple of real life wins for him, including the Chiefs. They just got done beating. So
Yep.
That's a pretty statement win right there for Jordon Love.
I agree. All right, who you got your bust?
My bust, Mr. Geno Smith. I mean, he's playing the Niners this week. They just played him 2 weeks ago. He had 8 points. He's projected 15.9 this week, 256 yards, 1.3 touchdowns. I don't think he gets there. He'll be lucky to get 200 yards. He might get a touchdown, but he won't get over that. This San Fran defense, they were rocking and rolling, and then they just got done thumping the Eagles. Like, they're on fire right now. So I don't think Geno Smith stands much of a chance of getting the ball out. And their run game is struggling right now. Everybody's banged up.
Yep.
So it's down to him, and they're going to key on him and eat him up.
I agree. I know people are thinking, okay, Geno Smith just came off of a pretty huge game against Dallas. And what about Dallas's defense? Dallas's defense looked absolutely horrible in that, Bland, who is in MVP talks as a defensive player and setting NFL records, got just roasted all day. DK Metcalf looked incredible, and he was snagging balls that was making Geno Smith look good. I mean, DK Metcalf had an amazing game. So I'm not counting on Geno Smith to be able to duplicate that kind of performance against San Francisco, who is an even better defense, right? And again, you mentioned it. Look back to just a couple weeks ago when they played San Fran and he had 8 points. I think he's closer to that. Again, he comes back down to earth. I don't see him blowing up against a San Fran defense like he did Dallas last week.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Just not realistic.
No.
All right, let's move on to some running backs then. Give us your boom running back.
All right, my boom running back is Mr. Devin Achane playing against Tennessee. So we saw him come back this last week. Everybody was super concerned, right?
Absolutely.
Coming back off an injury. We saw what happened the first time he come back with an injury.
Fool me once.
Came back, looked good, had a good game. No setbacks this week. He's even a week healthier. They're playing Tennessee, who I think they're going to greatly outscore, so he'll get a ton of work again. They've got a projected 12 carries for 49 yards, 3 receptions for 20, half a touchdown, 13.2 points. I think that is a gross disservice to his skill set and what the game script of this game is going to end up being. I think he gets in the 20s easy. Definitely think he'll score. He'll get probably over 100 yards, total yards. I love this matchup for him against Tennessee between game script and you've seen running backs prove you can run on them. So yeah, I'm loving some Achane this week.
I agree. And he's going to get you a few just easy points just off of receptions, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But he's proven that he's healthy. Like, he looked great last week. And he's also proven that when the Dolphins get up on a team, he's still going to be in the game, right? Mostert's going to be pulled back first, not Achane. So you can count on Achane performing and being in the game pretty much the whole time. So there's no reason. He is technically the backup. So even if they get a huge lead, Achane's still going to be in the game producing. Because we saw that against Washington last week where they kind of took their foot off the pedal, passing the ball and everything. But who was in there? Achane. Who was getting all the carries? Achane. Who was carrying for all the touchdowns? Achane. So sign me up for that again this week.
I definitely see that game script this week against Tennessee going very similar. Tennessee's biggest weakness is its pass defense. So you're going to see the Cheetah get his, Waddle will probably get one, and then it'll just be run game. And Achane will definitely be the beneficiary of that, like you said.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Who's your bust running back of the week?
Oh, my bust. It always hurts me to put a Cowboy up here, but it's Tony Pollard against Philly. And the Cowboys have been doing what I thought they would do over these last several games. They had easier running matchups, took that opportunity to really get this run game going because you're going to need that run and pass game as you go into the playoffs, right? So they've really taken the opportunity to get him going. This week, however, if Tony Pollard doesn't do anything, it's going to be through the air. Philly is one of the top 3 rush defenses in the league. He's going to have a hard time on the ground. So they're getting projected 15 carries for 68 yards, 3 receptions for 25, half a touchdown. I don't think he gets in the end zone this week. And I don't think he'll get this many yards either. I think he stays under 100 total yards, doesn't get in the end zone. 16.5 points. If he gets double digits, I'll be surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's one way to beat that Philadelphia defense, and it's not through the run game. And they're fairly easy to pass on. Their secondary is not good. And you know who's on fire right now? Dak Prescott throwing the ball. CD Lamb looking good. Brandon Cooks looking good. Ferguson looking good. Heck, all the way down to Turpin looking good. Like, that pass offense is looking really good. And that's where you beat the Eagles, and you know they want to come out and beat the Eagles. And at home, where they perform very, very well. So I'm firing up everyone in this Cowboys offense except for Tony Pollard.
Yeah, basically.
You can go back to week 9 when they played Philly, and Tony Pollard only had 9 points. But you can look at Dak Prescott, who had just about 35 points. He had a great game, right? So it's more of a game script type of thing. Tony Pollard's just not going to be a big part of it.
Yep, I agree.
I'm just not trusting him against Philly's defense.
A very similar matchup to week 9.
I agree. So, and even if they do get ahead, which is not a thing, I'm just saying, if they get ahead, and they're still going to be throwing the ball. Tony Pollard is not going to be able to get the yards on the ground that he needs to get for them to just go into this preservation run game.
Philly's not a team that you go into that game mode and they can come back too fast.
Yeah, you can't go into that game mode. You got to keep laying it on, which means Tony Pollard just never enters the scene there.
Yep.
So, yep, I'm with you on that. Alrighty. Let's see. Let's go on. Oh, that's our running backs and quarterbacks. Let's just take a second and talk about Fantasy Football Advice Network. Go to fantasyfootballadvice.com. Get signed up for free. You can ask questions, answer questions, read articles, watch videos, listen to podcasts, all that stuff. It is a social media network 100% dedicated to fantasy football. So go over there, join the community, make friends, and get advice to win your week. It's a lot of fun. And you can download the mobile app and get that advice on the go at all times. So, alrighty, Kyle, let's move on to some wide receivers. Give me your first wide receiver here, your boom of the week.
Yeah, my boom receiver of the week is Rashee Rice for Kansas City. And I had him picked earlier in the season, and it didn't work out too well for me. However, when you look at the stats over the last couple of weeks, this guy has had a spike in targets. He was getting 5 or 6 targets a week, basically. And then these last 2 weeks, he's had 10 and 9, I believe. 8 receptions each week. Had a touchdown in week 12. This week, they play Buffalo. All right. He had those spikes against much tougher pass defenses than Buffalo. People are throwing all over Buffalo right now. It's a great matchup. They got him projected 5 catches for 56 yards, 0.4 touchdowns, 12.9 points. I think he could get higher than that. I think he gets in the end zone again. I think he could push for 100 yards. So I would think he gets closer to the 15-20 range than that 10 to 15 range that they got him in now.
I agree. He's becoming one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite receiving options. And, some of that is a beneficiary of Travis Kelce getting so much attention. You see people, they're just double teaming Travis Kelce. They're giving him so much attention that it's opening up other receivers. But Rashee Rice seems to be the guy that Patrick Mahomes trusts the most, and it's going to most consistently. And we've been waiting on a wide receiver to step up into that position for Patrick Mahomes to trust and pass it to. And that seems to be him. Again, like you mentioned, the targets 10 and 9 the last 2 games. That's big for a Kansas City wide receiver. The last time they had a wide receiver get those kind of targets was Tyreek Hill. So it's been so spread around for so long, and now all of a sudden, those kind of target counts from Patrick Mahomes, yes, please. Where do I sign?
And they've ever since Tyreek Hill left, they've been looking for a true number 1 receiver after Kelce that could be that consistent guy and have that rapport with Mahomes, and it looks like they finally found that guy. Mahomes seems to be really trusting this guy, and it's paying off.
Yeah, he's super talented. And then again, as you mentioned, Buffalo's pass defense.
Yeah, Buffalo is not playing well this year at all.
They are not.
They're not stopping anything. It's
been rough.
Mahomes is going to bounce back from that Packers loss this week, I believe.
Well, and they're playing at Arrowhead, which is really nice.
Which is always nice, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get to your wide receiver bust.
Oh, my wide receiver bust, Mr. Calvin Ridley. And, after a rough early season, he's finally started to turn it around. Just in time for Trevor Lawrence to get a high ankle sprain. Christian Kirk, who was the guy taking pressure off on the other side of the field, goes out for the season. That's going to hurt. But definitely the Trevor Lawrence injury. Yeah, he's probably still going to play. But he's going to be hindered. He's not going to be able to move around the pocket as much. On top of all of that, they play Cleveland this week, which is a horrible matchup for quarterbacks and non-slot receivers. Side note, I love Evan Ingram this week with no Christian Kirk. I think he plays in the slot a lot. There's a bonus pick for you.
There you go.
He's not in my tight end section, so I was throwing that out there with the Jags here. So they're going to projected 4 catches for 55 yards, 0.3 touchdowns, 11.7 points. I don't think he gets double digits. Cleveland's tough.
I mean, he's been a roller coaster ride all year. Calvin Ridley has, right? High expectations. Started off with the first game with a big boom and then immediately fell off. Had some other productive games throughout the season. But last week only had 7 points against Cincinnati and then has to go play at Cleveland.
Yeah.
And like you said, Trevor Lawrence still might play, but he's not going to be quite the same, right?
No.
An ankle sprain usually keeps players out for weeks, and if he's coming back the next week, granted he's quarterback, but it's still different. It's going to mess with his mobility. It's going to mess with him, stepping up into a throw. And like you said, then at the same time, the Christian Kirk being able to take the pressure off of Ridley, now a lot of that, because really Christian Kirk, we've discussed this multiple times, is really the number one wide receiver, so he's probably getting the best corners matching up against him. Well, that all shifts over to Calvin Ridley now. So now that's
Calvin Ridley's got the talent to handle it.
Yes.
But with the QB banged up and the particular matchup, it's still going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm not liking wide receiver against Cleveland at all this year, but then being at Cleveland makes it that much worse. That's a hard pass for me.
Yep.
Cool. Let's move on to tight ends then. Who is your boom tight end?
My boom tight end, Evan Ingram. I'm just kidding. That would make me a liar. Could you imagine?
You got
Isaiah Likely, huh? What'd you say?
I said you fooled me there for a second.
I know, that would have been funny. If I just said he's not my tight end and then he was, but no, Isaiah Likely versus the Rams. The Rams allow the 8th most points to tight ends. That's 1. 2, he is getting 15.6% target share, 69.4 route run rate, which are tight end 1 numbers. All right. He had 8 points in the last game before the bye that they played. They've only got him projected 3 catches for 32 yards, 0.2 touchdowns, 7.4 points. I think he gets in double digits easy.
I mean, you can't argue that. That's such a low projection.
It's criminal.
Someone that is going to be that involved. I mean, he's getting over a 70% snap count. He's proven in the past that Lamar Jackson will throw to him. He's, this is only his 3rd game to take over the starting role, I believe. He's had time now to kind of get into that groove.
Well, it's only his 2nd game. Well, if you don't count week 1, which was in this stretch, it's only his 2nd game to start. The other game, he just kind of took over in the middle when Andy was hurt.
So good. So in his first game to start, he had 8 points. Now he's had a bye week, an extra week to work in there. Yeah, I mean, he should be feeling comfortable now as that starter, and I say fire him up. I picked him up in waivers this week, and I'm starting him this week in the league. So
absolutely. I think we picked him up in the league. We're in together.
Yep.
So
exactly. Gimme. All right, let's move on to your bust.
The bust, Mr. David Njoku. And it really comes down to 2 words. Joe Flacco. Now, Joe Flacco, over the years, has thrown to tight ends, sure. But last week, it was Harrison Bryant.
Who?
Exactly. That was catching all the tight end passes from Joe Flacco. So they've got him projected 4 catches, 48 yards, 0.3 TDs, 10.6 points. I don't think he gets to double digits. There's going to be, even on waivers, probably a better option than him this week.
It's disappointing because Njoku was actually having a pretty decent season. He wasn't wowing anybody, but he was oddly consistent. So, and that's
He was Evan Ingram North, basically.
essentially. I mean, it's hard to find a consistent player, and then at tight end, that's pretty good. You were getting about 10 points a game, which is really nice. But yeah, last week just fell off a cliff. Where did he go? And yeah,
Rough.
Joe Flacco took him to the train station or something. I'm not sure what happened.
Exactly what happened.
but Njoku disappeared, and I'm not risking that again this week by any means. So, whew. Did you like that? Did you like that reference there?
That was good. That was a good one.
I do what I can. All right. So that does it for our booms and our busts of the week. Let's give them a couple streamers at the kicker and defense position to look into here in their final week before going into the playoffs. Who is a good kicker to stream this week?
All right. So my streamer kicker, this poor guy has been on a roller coaster of a season. He's one of the young studs in the league, right? Kicker. It's Evan McPherson, by the way, and they're playing Indy. One of the young stud kickers in the league. I think he's 24 years old, on one of the best offenses in the league. Starts off the year slow because Burrow's hurt. People dropping, get rid of him. Okay. Burrow's healthy. Oh, picking back up. They're going to start scoring points again. Great. Burrow gets hurt again, out for the year. Drop him again. Jake Browning ain't going to do anything. Now, this week, Jake Browning showed, hey, they can still move the ball. They can still score points. That makes Evan McPherson relevant again, especially in a matchup against Indy where their defense is not stopping people very well. What's funny about that, if you think about it out loud, so Indy's defense in fantasy is actually scoring very well because they get a lot of turnovers and a lot of sacks and things like that. But they also allow a ton of points.
Yeah, weird.
They're easy for offenses to score on, but they're a high-scoring defense too. It's very strange when you look at the numbers like that. But I definitely think the Bengals can put up points against Indy this week. So McPherson, he's probably on waivers still in most of your leagues. He's a good pickup.
I agree. McPherson.
I think it's McPherson.
Sure. Good kicker, like you said, good young kicker. But this is a guy also that can kick field goals from 50-plus yards, and they trust him with those opportunities, so he gets them kind of often. Now, Browning did show that he actually could move the ball in this offense. Granted, he's surrounded by good talent. Mixon was able to run better than we thought, and then he just fed Chase the ball, and Chase is a beast, right? So they're able to move the ball, which is pretty nice. And so getting into scoring position for a kicker, and I think I mention this every week, getting into scoring position, right? And when your offense can move the ball like that, it's giving him more and more opportunities. And then again, against the Colts, I love that matchup there. So lots of scoring opportunities for this guy again this week. Surprisingly, I know we're all thinking Jake Browning, why? But it's going to happen. And so I also like him as a streamer this week.
Yeah, I like this kid a lot.
He's good.
Young, very consistent, hell of a leg. He could be the next Justin Tucker.
I almost threw that out there. I was like, this is one of the rare kickers that I look at him and go, I wouldn't mind have him on my dynasty team. Yep. And usually I don't care about a kicker in dynasty, but he's one of them. Like he's really good. And he's on a good offense when everyone's there.
Exactly.
Looking at you, Burrow. Yeah. All righty. Let's give a defensive streamer of the week.
Defensive streamer of the week, the Green Bay Packers. Playing against the New York Giants on Monday night, as we mentioned with the Love pick earlier. The Giants have been one of the top matchups for defenses all year long, even when Daniel Jones was playing. Put in Tommy DeVito. I mean, they're sack and turnover machines, the Giants. And the Packers have just been playing really, really well lately on defense. Not just Jordon Love, but their defense is playing really, really well also, which has helped them, beat teams like the Chiefs and stuff. So definitely love, and they're available in more leagues than they should be. So definitely give them a look this week if you need a D.
I was gonna say when you're looking in sleeper, they're 44% rostered, so that means they're available in a lot of leagues. And you said it, their offense is playing well lately, right? So when you're in a game against someone like the Giants, your offense is playing well. You're probably gonna get up by a lot, which is going to make the Giants have to get a little bit out of their game plan, probably drop back to pass more often than they would like, probably take more risks than they would like with DeVito at quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, this defense should feast on that.
Not to mention, they're getting to stay fresh because their offense is sustaining drives down the field and not going 3 and out every time.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this one, the offense helps this defense benefit. And so they're gonna get the Giants in a bad spot, pretty quick probably, because this offense somehow is just working all of a sudden. So
Yeah,
whatever. So I'll take it. I'll give them some love, and hey, good for them. So stream those Packers for sure. So alrighty, guys. That's going to do it for us this week. I do want to invite you one more time to hop over to fantasyfootballadvice.com and get signed up for the only social media network 100% dedicated to fantasy football. Ask questions, answer questions, get all kinds of content, hang out with us and build a community, and download the mobile app so you can do it just all the time. You can be at work, right? Your boss doesn't have to know, your phone isn't blocked off of the network at your office, so you can get fantasy football advice anytime. So,
and show us some love.
There you go. All right, guys. Again, that's going to do it for us for our Week 14 booms and busts. We appreciate you joining us, and good luck in your matchups this week. And reach out to us again at fantasyfootballadvice.com if you have any questions for the rest of the week for your matchups. Good luck, guys.
Good luck, guys. Secure those playoff spots.